What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Don't Give Up Shit Podcast. I think this is actually a spin the yarn, but whatever. Let's spin some yarn. We're gonna do a continuation of the last one. Sorry it took me so long. Life and stuff. But I just got over some crud too, so good times. But like I wanted to do like a discussion of what the Chiefs season could look like, without getting into, I do want to map out the nuts and bolts and like create like a structure, but I'm actually gonna slow. I've started a little, like I started outlining some things, including like a mission, vision, guiding principles revision, for no other reason really than I want to start from what I believe would be optimal. And I think it all being based on the mission, vision, guiding principles, I think is ideal to begin with. But it's kind of like, I also feel like while I do believe it's the best source document we have, we being like the Chiefs mess for like who we are and what we do, I still think there's room for improvement, certainly. And there's a good chance, like I'm sure Perryman, New McPon type will do his own like revision on it, whatever that means. Hopefully an improvement, but it kind of like the thing that Honey did is gimmicky and like let's make all the words that start with the same letter, and like I don't know, like there's just something kind of like it didn't seem aimed at making the Chiefs mess better. It seemed more aimed at putting my like stamp on it, like so he can say, well, these were my mission, vision, and guiding. It's like, okay, who gives a fuck? It's like every commander's got to have a new priority set, and every CNO's got to have their own new buzzwords and shit. And it's just like, we're still doing the same thing essentially, right? Like, why do we have to change it every 5 minutes? Like, and then you think I'm going to memorize it and care? Like, come on. But anyway, yeah, Honey's revision of it was not great. Like, and sense of heritage being removed, I thought was pretty disgusting, but whatever, because it's got the current thing. He put competency, character, and connections like next to them and kind of like arbitrarily grouped them so that he could do that, just so that he could make a stupid little like fucking, I don't know, pamphlet thing and say, look, I did something. But sense of heritage used to be one of the blocks on your eval, which is where they're drawing that from mission, vision, guiding principles. I assume since it's subsequently been removed from evals, but don't quote me on that because I don't know. I'd have to go check. But there's lots of stuff about it that I don't love, so I was gonna probably start with a draft revision of that, and then build everything else off of that as the primary source document, like that's providing direction for all of the training objectives and blah, blah, blah. And I do, no matter what happens, because I'm going to give you some like inside information here in a second. Regardless of what happens as a result of the new regime taking over, like the new CNO and new MCPON, both of which are submariners, so I'm like slightly more cautiously optimistic than normal because they don't fuck around generally and they get shit done. So like, I don't know. And I have heard good things about Perryman. I don't know him. I've never worked with him, so like, who knows? But I have heard good things. Regardless of what happens, I'm going to end up building out, because I kind of want to do a teaching of the creed update, but I fucking hate that curriculum and I hate that it's built on the creed. So I kind of want to wait and see how they update things. And then I'm going to build out kind of like a curriculum that will be behind a paywall on YouTube. Some of it'll be via podcast stuff. Like some of the supporting stuff for it will be read. There'll always be free stuff. But like I'm gonna do like a video-based curriculum with like IMI, and so like I'm gonna do I would like to develop a pretty robust curriculum for people to use, and it'll be like a modest fee behind a paywall kind of thing for like where a Chiefs mess could spend the $50 if they wanted to use it kind of thing. I got to pay the bills, you know what I'm saying? And I do not take a paycheck for this still, for the record. Like and I don't make anywhere near as much money as I used to off of Patreon and everything. But anyway, just wanted to disclose that I'm not making any money off this, really. Like personally, not profiting yet. Hopefully it'll become a job someday. But the inside information piece, so like I want to wait for those updates. One of which, fucking drum roll please, they are working on an instruction governing like policy document for the Chiefs season. I got it from a pretty reliable source, somebody who I trust implicitly, but you know, like we'll see if maybe it's the rumor mill. I also know some Reddit mods for our Navy. They're working on an AMA with the MCPON as well, or with his office. I'm assuming he's involved, but it might just be like the PAO types. Who knows? And like he has like an enlisted aide or something. But I'm told that they're working on an instruction, like an actual policy document that's going to say what the Chiefs season like rules are and have actual like, hopefully it says things like, you know, it's mandatory and acceptance is a symbolic moment of self-actualization, shit like that. But like, ideally it'll at least provide guardrails and like a general direction and maybe even training objectives, but it's probably just going to point at I would hope it would point at the mission, vision, guiding principles, because somebody that like came up through the submarine force, I don't think would have the stomach to build a curriculum with like the Chiefs creed as the scaffolding. Like, I don't know. Let me look up Perryman. I don't know his background rating wise. I want to say he was like a radioman or something. I don't know. Let's look him up. But no matter what, if it's a 5-page document that says next to nothing, that it's still a good thing. It says electronics technician, but I'm pretty sure I saw somewhere that he was a radioman, because that could mean more than one. That could mean Navy T too. It doesn't say in this bio. I'm pretty sure he was a radioman, which like isn't even a real job anymore. They like did some weird rating merger things, and there's all kinds of strange like Bob used to be a radioman. Now he's like a land something. I don't remember what the flavors are now, but they're all like, it's like electronic warfare and something else. But anyway, neither here nor there. I'm pretty sure he was a radioman. But like these dudes, like people that go through this, like the submarine force, it's like they're like me, like and I can't compare myself to him exactly. I'm just saying like we're the same species. Like he needs like concrete, like, what are we doing? Where are we going? Okay, we're going to build a curriculum. What are the training objectives? What are like, he's going to operationalize everything, and he's going to think about it that way. And like, where I need to build this out in like a formal professional way that has very clear training objectives, blah, blah, blah. So that's what I would assume it would be. That's what I assume it would be generally. But even if it's like a 5-page nothing burger, right? Here's why that's still technically a good thing. Because like I've been screaming at the top of my lungs for the better part of a decade. I mean, I've probably been talking about this specific thing for like 5 or 6 years. I don't even know how long. That we need a formal policy document, that there needs to be an instruction that governs the Chiefs season. It's probably been like 10 years, honestly. And currently, like, there is an instruction, like there is a Naval Enlisted Leadership Development Continuum instruction that includes everything but, which I kind of wish they would just update that. Maybe that's what they're doing. I don't know. I don't have a lot of details. I just have hey, this is coming. I don't know what's going to be in it, but the fact that it exists is a monumental step in the right direction. So that like that in and of it, just creating a policy document, like is a milestone, even if that policy document is inadequate, right? Just because, and hopefully we get some of the basics, like, hey, the season's mandatory or not, and here are the ways in which we're gonna like enforce that, I guess. Like even that's a big step in the right direction. If we get more than that, if we get 100+ page opus on like, which I expect it to be more useful than a 5-page nothing burger, to be fair, like just because of who's doing it. But either way, it's such an enormous, because you're setting a precedent. It's such an enormous step in the right direction. Just recognizing you have a problem, like recognizing, hey, there's zero policy here. Like there's no actual formal guidance. There's no rules. There's no anything. I think it's huge that they're finally starting to realize how absurd that is and that they need to do something about it. And so like just the recognition that it's needed is huge. And then if they actually sign something out, like if the CNO signs something out and this isn't just like a MCPON memo or something, which even I would take the MCPON memo, to be fair. Like if it had actual guidance and policy that cited some instructions or something, I have some kind of formal authority. But I would take just a MCPON memo that like lays it all out, but I would rather it be an actual policy document signed out by the CNO saying, this is the chief season. This is what's allowed. This is what's not allowed. These are the milestones. These are the things that are mandatory. These are the things that are elective, or whatever, however they want to do it. Like, it's such a big deal that they are doing it that I'm just like, I'm here for just the arrival of a policy document at all. Like, I think it's big, and it just opens a door for subsequent revision and updating and whatever based on feedback and experiential like learning and whatever. So I think it's a big step in the right direction, and I'll just leave it at that because I don't have any other information. But I do like, all that is to say, it was kind of like, I just wanted to clarify that, like, because I have that information, I'm gonna kind of wait to see what they update. Probably like some of the stuff I could do, because it's like, you know, like the topics and stuff won't change largely, or I can repurpose it or whatever. So like I'll still start, but it's not something I'll probably won't publish anything, and because I want anything I do in that vein where like kind of like the teaching the creed stuff, like I hated that curriculum. I still do, but I understand that it's mandatory and all the selectees have to go through it every year. So if I'm going to target something, like if I'm going to work on a project that's targeted at helping facilitate the chief season, or at least helping them understand what they're going through and creating like an asset in that vein, it's like I want to build it over the infrastructure provided by the Navy to that end. Like if they have training objectives and they have things that like you need to talk about, I want to make sure it's built. It's like an overlay to that, and it follows the curriculum and the learning objectives and everything else. Even if I think they're stupid, which I don't know yet. I think teaching the creed is hot garbage, but I did it anyway just because it's like you have to do it. And they want you to have those conversations, which you can't have in a room where a high-level CMC is running it, because no one's going to do that. Like, you know what I mean? But so I'm like, okay, well, let's provide a resource for that. And on top of that, it was COVID times back then. So, like, people were going to be doing things remotely or whatever. But still, like, I would like to create a resource, especially for people that are deployed. Like, I have a lot of submariners contact me to download like the teaching of the creed stuff and the initiation chronicle stuff to take underway, because they won't have internet access like ever, and to use to help facilitate the chief season. But like it was in need of an update anyway, I think, or getting there, the teaching of the creed stuff. And then and I haven't kept my finger on the pulse of how that's been updated, if it's been updated, but I assume it's still very similar and still terrible. But hopefully this is like optimistically, hopefully this is like a, you know, the beginnings of kind of a professionalizing of the chief season. Like start with a formal policy document and build from there, which I'm here for it. I want to get excited so bad, but like, I'm like, I've been let down so many times that my, cautiously optimistic. I'm just like, I'm hoping that it's amazing. All that being said, I wanted because I talked about what I talked about in the last episode, and then I plan to like just have a conversation, stress testing some of the ideas. I think that guess might have fallen through. I'm not sure yet. I got to double check with some people, but I haven't been getting like responses from them. So I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Maybe they don't want to do it anymore and they don't have the heart to tell me or something. I don't know. But if not, I'll get somebody else like Paul Kingsbury in here or something. But we're going to have a conversation about it regardless. Paul probably isn't the best choice just because we agree on like everything, but like whatever, I'll find somebody. It might be Paul. Just, I don't know, whatever. It is what it is, but we'll have the conversation. But I wanted to like, I'm trying to be more deliberate. Shout out to my old cop, Jared, who shit all over me on Instagram. But I think I do offer solutions most of the time, but I did get stuck in a rut where I was just kind of like flaming things. And I don't know that I was providing enough of like, this is what I think we should do about it. So I'm trying to be more deliberate, thanks to that feedback, about making sure I am at least like suggesting solutions. And this is going to be like a sketch, right? I just want to be really clear so that before everybody gets all up in arms, I'm not. So first of all, this is just me like suggesting what I think it could be, right? I'm not saying I would never, this is such a enormous project that I would never like think that I'm the only guy in the world with a solution, or that there couldn't be a ton of people with a ton of great ideas that if I was really going to do this, like for whatever reason, like the Navy came and got me and said, hey, we want you to overhaul the Chiefs season. It's like, it wouldn't be just me. I would immediately start making phone calls and like build a team around me to do it with me, because like, I don't think that I not even think, like, I know I'm not capable of like making all the right calls all on my own. Like that would be like such an egomaniacal, like insane take to have. But like these are the things based on my experience and based on my, like the feedback and discussions that I've had and all the things. Like this is kind of like just like the potential that I see in it, which I do see in it. Otherwise I'd be just saying like, down with the Chiefs season, like pitchforks and torches, let's go. Like, let's just delete it. But there is potential for this to be really great. And I think the reason why you don't see more people trying to just get rid of it is that they've seen that too. They just know that, like, and hopefully this is what the new McPon is doing, is like he sees that it just needs to be professionalized and formalized, and there needs to be guardrails, there needs to be formal training objectives. We all need to be going the same direction, marching to the same tune, and it needs to be productive. And I think that this is a step in that direction, and I'm super excited. But I'm just going to go through like a rough draft sketch of some of the things, like a rough timeline over the 6 weeks approximately, and then just like some thoughts and notes that I have on just like the things that I think need to happen, should happen, could happen that would be really productive, etc. Right? And I'm just going to try to like put it together in a somewhat coherent vision of like, this is what I think it could be, and this is like my input, I guess, without like having like any kind of, I don't have like a rigid plan, and I didn't go into excruciating detail on purpose, just because like I know there's like going to be a lot of like room for improvement and feedback, and I welcome it, and I encourage you like after this episode, please like push me all your feedback, especially the Chiefs that have participated in either at least their own season, if not participated in facilitating some, but also like board eligible first classes. We want to hear from you too, just because you're the customer, essentially. Like you're the person that is going to go through this evolution, and that we want to come out the other end feeling like they have like a productive and trust-based relationship with the Chiefs mess, and that they've received like leadership development and education through that 6 weeks. Like you should come out the other end feeling like you're part of the fabric of the Chiefs mess, that you can trust those people, and that you belong. Right. That's what we should be working towards. But I think what we're currently doing, like present day model, arguably like self-sabotages at every step, but sometimes gets some things right, I guess. So, and it's wildly varying based on the mess and everything else because no formal structure. However, sounds like Perryman's coming to the rescue. We hope. Okay. So I'm going to start with like some pre-results stuff that just kind of, I was just thinking about like the planning. I'm a planning ahead guy. Like I got absolutely broken by my time in special projects where it's like you just have to have such a far out planning horizon there, with the understanding that everything's going to change, but you just have to be like planning super far out to kind of, because everything has a lead time or like a timeline for it having to happen, and those things, a lot of those things aren't going to adjust to accommodate the holy shit we gotta go schedule of special projects. So it's like you just have to plan way ahead and then have contingencies and have plans for people to like do things while you're out so that when you get back the timeline meets up with when, you know, like shit. You just have to have a really like complex and far out horizon for the way that you plan things. So like immediately my mind went to like, before results even come out, what are all the things that I want to have done, right? And so the first thing I put in here, which I hope is part of any formal instruction, is facilitator training, right? It's just like I would say the model is the same as NLIC ELD, right? Where they want a lot of it to happen, which I don't love that we are trying to do it this way. And I understand it's almost certainly a budget constraint, but trying to like kind of outsource a lot of the facilitation of the NLIC ELD courses to people that are on the flight line, as they like to say, or just people on your base or at the shore commands in your general vicinity or fleet concentration area. I understand to an extent, like it's probably the best way. I mean, almost certainly is the best way to do it. Because of what I can only assume are budget constraints. Like they can't stand up brick and mortar NLIC ELD schoolhouses in every fleet concentration area. Probably. I mean, they could if they had enough money, but like I'm assuming current budget, like they don't. And so that's kind of why they built the program this way. But it's kind of in the same model, like where their solution to not outsourcing it to the people that are on that flight line, that hypothetical flight line or shore duty generally, so they can facilitate this training without having to be permanently assigned and like facilitators or like instructors. The people facilitating those courses have to go to a course themselves that is taught by permanently assigned NLIC ELD people to get like certified, get the NEC or the certification or whatever, saying that they can now facilitate these NLIC ELD classes. Same kind of model in my mind, and this could probably be done. I don't even want to say this out loud. I would ideally, in a perfect world, I would like for it to be done like in real life with real people from an NLIC ELD ideally, but I honestly think like the region CMC could probably do this, or even like the CMC locally at your specific command could probably do it too. But like, I just think there should be facilitator training, meaning every year, whoever is going to be involved in the training of chiefs and the implementation of chief season events and whatever, all the things, you must attend facilitator training. And if you don't play. And that's it's as simple as like, if we're doing chief season events and you didn't go to facilitator training, you are told to leave. Like and here's why I feel that way. It's because one, hypothetical instruction that's coming out with policy, blah, blah, blah. It's going to lay out a bunch of, I would hope it's going to lay out a bunch of guardrails and policy and do's and do nots and blah, blah, blah. And I think that just needs to be trained on for the sake of proficiency and understanding, and even just accountability later, like signing page 13 saying, yep, I attended facilitator training. Or you probably wouldn't even need to, because you could just put it in your whatever the fucking electronic training jacket is now, and it's in fleet temps or whatever. So like if you violate policy, I can prove you were trained, and then at NJP I can be like, hey, yeah, you went to facilitator training. See, so like if there's hazing, if there's just like wild like harassment type conduct or whatever happens, like they're just doing something, alcohol at an event, whatever it is, it creates that accountability mechanism as well. But like the big thing for me is like the people doing it just consistently every year it evolves, right? So like you're getting new people in and you're shedding old heads that are retiring, right? So like it's a thing you just need to repeat over and over again so that you can make sure you got everybody, and for the sake of proficiency and for the sake of that accountability mechanism. So that for me, that's a big one. Like I just think that one of the ways that you implement the incoming instruction with that hopefully has all these guardrails and policy and all that stuff is you then have to train on it, because you then, and it's not, to me, that whole like honor system of, hey, discuss my memos and then your SELs will let everybody know that you did it and report completion. It's like, this informality, like unofficial Scouts honor bullshit, it doesn't work. And most people aren't doing it because they have way too much other shit to do. And when you make it something that they can easily shirk, it's like, it's just going to get triaged out of the shit to-do list. And so like for the sake of this, it's like, if you're going to do this, like you need to do facilitator training. And I feel like because of all those things I just said about the how packed everybody's schedule is and holy shit, we don't have time. It's like, it makes sense to me that the NLELD or whomever, the MCPON's leadership mess or whoever does it, whatever, they develop a curriculum and it's deliverable. Like they provide all the tools required to that command SEL wherever they may be at command or learning site or submarine or aircraft carrier or whatever. And they provide the facilitator training, right? Maybe even waivers for like large platforms where you can like push it down to like, I don't know, like another master chief, like a department master chief or something. But like, I would prefer it be somebody wearing a cookie, just because it's a different beast, and because they're the ones accountable for this besides the CO. And I would assume that kind of verbiage is going to be in this instruction, the kind of stuff that you would see in like the MCPON memos that would come out with season guidance that would say the command SEL is accountable. The command SEL is accountable. And it's like, so like if everything goes horribly wrong, the command SEL head is going to be on the chopping block. The CO is going to have to answer to somebody too, but at the end of the day, they're accountable for everything. But the command SEL is the one who's accountable for the chief season. So I would want facilitator training to be facilitated by them. Next one, same vein, same basic construct, is sponsor training. This, I think you could also facilitate with a command SEL, and that's how I'd prefer it. But I think this one I'd be willing to give the ground of like, this could be done electronically, because I think you could just have the MCPON talking, have some MCPON leadership mess people talking, and then just have some like people who have done a lot of sponsoring talking, and go through hey, this is what a sponsor is, this is what they do, some C stories about like the importance and impact, blah, blah, blah. And then it gets recorded in fleet temps for the same reason, right? And I think it's really important for the reasons I spoke on already for the facilitator piece of it, but then sponsors' roles are different. Like if we're going to have a sponsor like this, the way that it was built into me, right? And I'm sure other people have different interpretations. And because we lack currently a policy document of any kind, who knows like what it's intended to be. Like there's no document or like any kind of like guidance on what it actually is, but it was told to me, and what I believe the value would be in having a sponsor is that as you go through the chief season, even with what I believe to be a vastly improved process, like, and I'm going to suggest some of the ways that I think that could be done, but even if it was completely overhauled and we were doing a lot of different things, I still think sponsors are a good thing to have, for a couple of reasons, right? One, having an individualized mentor through the process to help you clarify, to help you understand, to push you when you need it, to help you resolve issues like the stuff I'm constantly harping on about, like the single parents or medical issues or whatever. Like there's a lot can happen during the Chiefs season, and a lot does happen that takes that person away from the family even more than the family is generally used to, unless they're like at a like super high op tempo command. And it stresses out the family. So it's just like there's a lot that I believe the sponsor is responsible for to shepherd that selectee through the process. But what constantly got repeated to me coming up was they're your center of gravity. They're not going to mess with you. They're not going to lie to you. They're the person you can go to when you feel confused, discombobulated, like down, defeated, whatever, and have conversations, ask questions, vent, whatever. And they're the one that helps you work through that, guides you through the process, whatever. But that they're not part of what we colloquially call the reindeer games, right? Which I would hope would be deleted through any revision of this process as well. But there will always be, like, you're not always going to have the answers to the test, even in a professional, formally structured, training objective driven Chiefs season event, right? Like you're not always going to have the answers. You're probably going to get overwhelmed. You're going to get stressed. You're going to get confused. You're not going to know what to do next. To me, that's like what your sponsor's there for. Like that's the person you go to, right? And they kind of help shepherd you through, mentor you through, make sure a big part of it too would be making sure, to me anyway, would be making sure that you're getting everything you can get out of the Chiefs season. I think it's really important to, like, because you don't get a mulligan. You don't get to do it twice unless the person running your Chiefs season has completely lost the fucking plot and doesn't accept you and makes you go through again or whatever. Or you're in a place where they have decided it's voluntary and you just don't go through it, and then you want to go through it another year, whatever. I've seen some weird shit, but it's something that you like the charge book, especially, like making sure you're taking that seriously, making sure you're taking things like the White Hat Burial eulogy seriously, making sure you're having fun when it's appropriate, like doing something cool, having fun, like safely building a vessel, like just there's all this stuff, and they can shepherd you through it because they know the process, they know what the thing, like when it's appropriate to be like messing around, pulling pranks and having a good time, and when it's appropriate to be locked in and taking it seriously and honoring the heritage and the seriousness and gravity of the event, whatever, right? So like it's just, there's always going to be this gray area to navigate, and to me that's where the sponsor fits in. And I think it's important to do that same type of thing, to like make sure the sponsor knows this is the way we're going. Like, these are the values. These are the things you're supposed to be doing. These are your responsibilities. This is what's expected of you, and this is what's going to be demanded of you, and you will be held accountable for those things. And if you don't do it, you know, and so like, I think it needs to be laid out. Everybody needs to be on the same page, going in the same direction. So sponsorship training was the second one. CO approval. I did an episode based on a Reddit post that a post tour CO did, and it was kind of like this. It's part of Initiation Chronicles. I forget which episode. You can go find it if you want, but it was this really great Reddit post about basically why COs should take this very seriously, and the things they should be doing, and the involvement they should have in planning, approval, and actual participation in the Chiefs season. And I've done it in some places, and in other places not so much, where I've had to brief the CO on all planned events and get their approval. One, I mean, it's just, if any CO out there is not requiring a brief from at least just him and this, like maybe the CMC and the CO are behind the closed door of their stateroom and the CMC is doing the brief. Okay, fine, whatever. Like, as long as you got a warm fuzzy and you're getting briefed, great. But if you're not, like, why? Like, they just, like, you're living on the edge, man. And, like, I fucking don't recommend it because, like, go pull all the covers of the Navy Times where the chief season has got shut down, or, you know, there's been hazing issues and all the things that can and will go wrong. It's like, you got to be on this. Like, if you're a commanding officer, you need to be intimately involved in the planning, approval of said plan that is briefed to you, and then being involved in the actual events. Like, and you don't have to be at everything, right? I don't think it's appropriate for the CO to be at everything, but like, PT is a big one. I think it's cool if you're going to do PT, and I'll talk about that later as a concept. But like, if you're doing PT, the CO showing up, it means a lot. Like, it's really cool if you take time out of your day to attend any event, but that, like, showing up for PT is pretty dope. I've had it happen and it meant a lot. We had an admiral show up one time. It was really cool, but like, that's a big deal. Being at final night events, I think, is important. And I think, it's really impactful too. Like, we've done cool events where like they'll have like a chief. I've seen this in a few different areas where a chief's one of the chiefs is creating a scenario where they're making the selectee counsel some JO or something, and they're blindfolded, and the person playing the JO is the commanding officer, and then after they say all the things they're supposed to say, or they think they're supposed to say, they take the blindfold off and they're like, oh god, all the blood drains out of their face, and they're like, and then the CO commences to like educating them, like commences training on how to train junior officers and what your role is in that vein and stuff like that. It's a really cool illustration. But the fact that the CO participated and then takes the time to talk to each individual select that does it and kind of like mentors them through, like, hey, this is what was important to me. This is what a chief did for me that made an impact, that helped me develop as a junior officer, blah, blah, blah. So like, I think like that type of involvement is also a big deal. Just being present. Charge book signing ceremony is cool. Like, that was part of my final night where like they had all the local command COs lined up at this submarine monument thing, and we all got in line in front of our CO and he signed our books and stuff. And then some of the other ones, it was just go into the CO stateroom and sit down with him and he'll sign it. But like, something to that effect is pretty great too. But yeah, I think the CO, not only do you need to be briefed on all the planned events, have input and sign off final approval, but like required, like demand things of them. Like, there better be training objectives. There better be documents covering training. Like, these are the objectives. This is the framework. This is how often it's going to happen, how long it's going to happen, who's running it, blah, blah, blah. And this should be like a formal plan in writing with your ink on it, because again, accountability later. Like, you need to have your hands all over it, because everything is your responsibility. And if something goes wildly off the rails and you had no idea, like, that's not going to fly with the next flag officer in the chain of command. And like, I'm confident I'm not telling any CO anything they don't already know. So it's like, make sure you are absolutely demanding a plan, a formal written plan with training objectives and like guardrails and policy and do's and do nots and who's in charge of what and when's it going to happen and why is it happening. That's a big part of why are we doing this, like, and like, what is the training objective attached to it? And if they can't answer those questions, then you're not doing it, you know. And you can do that, you're the commanding officer. So like, it's a big deal. Like, commanding officer involvement is huge. Weird, like, just policy or administrative things that will come back to bite you. And when you're in the throes of the chief season, everybody is just like white knuckling it. Like, everybody is super busy because you're doing your normal mission stuff, and then you're doing your normal primary duty, collateral duty, all that stuff, and then you're doing the chief season. So waiting to do any of this until you're in the throes of the chief season is a mistake. And so I just like made like a short list of like PARFQs, family care plans, any board eligibles that have leave plans that are happening during the chief season, PCS schedules as well, PRT BCA concerns. So like just people of concern that might look like they're borderline BCA wise or passing the PRT, whatever. Like get ahead of all that stuff, right? Like if you know somebody's going to be a concern for like BCA, right? Like get involved early if they're board eligible. Like we should be having these conversations way before we do like a mock PFA after results come out. Same thing like family care plans. Like I've harped on it a bunch about all the scenarios I've heard about Chiefs messes just like shrugging at a selectee that's a single parent and has to get their kids to I forgot, God, the name's escaping me. Child Development Center, right? Yeah, I think that's what it's called. The daycare on base. But they open at 6 and PT's at 5:30. It's like, well, I guess I'm not going to fucking be a PT because your plan sucks. And I don't mean the selectees. I mean, because that's not a plan. They don't run the CDC. They can't change the fucking hours, right? Like the PT plan is stupid. Or if that's the only time you can do it because operational schedule, then that person's not going to be a PT and they can do their own self-led PT plan or some shit, whatever. Figure it out. But it's like something you need to figure out ahead of time. It's not like that person became a single parent the day after results came out. So like have all that stuff talked about, make sure the people who are in charge of that board eligible first classes are having all these conversations and addressing all these areas of concern and doing all the admin and all that stuff ahead of time so that it's not a thing you need to get PARFQs done. Like it's just shit you don't want to or need to worry about after results when you're in the throes of the Chiefs season. All this can be done ahead of time. All of it can be quarterbacked by whoever your season lead is, just by like kind of reminding everybody, providing the paperwork, providing the guidance on what needs to be done and when it needs to be done and blah, blah, blah. And like tracking completion. And then things like kind of like infrastructure for logistics support for the Chiefs season, like pinning venue reserved, script draft complete, Comrel scheduled, meet and greet planned, uniform fitting scheduled, in-dock venue, in-dock venue. So like whatever we're calling it, like Cheech and the Creed, or maybe it's just called in-dock again later, whatever. In-dock venue reserved, facilitators assigned based on availability, sponsors identified, trained, and facilitator training complete. Just get all of it done ahead of results, like all of it. And then it'll take a lot of the load off of both the season lead and the CMC, and then just like it won't be a distraction or like a panicked last minute holy shit item to complete when everybody's already stressed out with everything else they're trying to juggle. Okay, so generally the first real event is called Meet the Mess. What I've seen normally happen is like just like the first day results come out. It's just like an announcement of results. That can happen a bunch of ways. If you're on a ship, it's usually the 1MC. Sometimes if it's a smaller platform, the CO will walk around and just congratulate people instead of doing it that way, which I always thought was kind of better if you can swing it. But like whatever, the results will get disseminated however they do. Like notifications will be made, and it's just like there's like the good commands I've been at. There's like a grace period of a couple days where it's like maybe results come out on a Thursday or Friday, and they like we'll get them all together, congratulate them. You got the weekend, and maybe over the weekend they do like a selectee barbecue where the families come and meet everybody, and everybody's like, hey, everybody's just being happy and celebrating. But then you get to Meet the Mess, right? And Meet the Mess is like most people, what you'll hear them say in relation to Meet the Mess is it's shock and awe, right? Which is fucking stupid. It's most of them that I've attended are just stupid, not productive, accomplish nothing except confusing and kind of immediately alienating the selectees and just like throwing a pointless obstacle in the way of them trusting the mess. Like it's like the first big volley of like sabotaging trust and just like pointlessly scaring and confusing them for why. Like I've never heard and can't have a hard time conceptualizing an explanation that makes any sense. Like it's almost always stupid, where they're like trying to make them enter, but they don't explain really how to make them enter to like report, and then they fuck it up, and then they kick them out, and then everybody's barking at them about just bullshit. It's like, for what? Like, what are we accomplishing right now? Explain to me the training objective. Explain to me why, like how any of this accomplishes that training objective. Oh, you can't because there isn't one. Yeah. So like for me, meet the mess is like just be genuine about it. Like no real change in behavior. And I don't really think there should be any change in behavior from what you are as a professional enlisted leader pre and post results. Because like, why? Why is there? If you're doing it right outside of the Chiefs season, why would your behavior then alter once the Chiefs season starts? Like it just doesn't make sense. And I've always had a gigantic problem with that because it's like we joke inside the skin of the mess about like the super chiefs that like show up at final night or at certain Chief season events and act like they're just this plugged in supermoto, you know, like overachiever of a chief. And then a lot of times you'll have selects be like, who the fuck is that? Like I've never seen that person before in my life. And it's like, why? Because they come out of the woodwork during the Chief season and then disappear the rest of the time. And it's like, that's not the only time we're preparing people to be Chiefs. Like it's a fucking 365 day a year task. It's just like, this is the capstone event, is this 6-week training cycle, and then they're pinned. So it's like, I don't think the behavior should alter. Like if you're going to do a meet the mess, I think it's fine to do that, but it's like like you can bring them in, like, and it can be like, you know, they're reporting formally and you're asking them some questions, but there's gotta be training objectives and some kind of a structure that is built around it to accomplish that training objective. And I think just like the beginnings of building trust is what that should be. Like that, it should be kind of like a tone setting event for us, kind of creating an environment where we are spending 6 weeks earning their trust. That doesn't mean we're like spoon feeding them and that it's not hard and, you know, all this other crap. It's just like, they need to trust us, or why would they want to be an accepted chief? Like we want them to be part of this organization, which means we need them to trust us, which means we can't spend 6 weeks actively sabotaging that, like actively like discouraging them from trusting us. And then on final night be like, you're my brother or you're my sister. Like it's nonsensical. It's incoherent. So yeah, I think like from day one, like behavior should not change. Like there are contexts where you'll be doing different things, but that like, so like if you're teaching them how to march, like you're going to be behaving slightly differently because you're doing a different thing. But it's like, I should be the same guy I was before results came out. Like that sailor should be interacting with the same person with the same personality. And there may be some stuff that they're doing differently because now they're a chief select and no longer a first class petty officer, but like, it's not that big. It's not where it's like your personality completely changes and that their expectations of an interaction with you are now a mystery, like because you're behaving completely like differently, whereas like everybody is like functionally schizophrenic or something. It's like, it's insane. And it just contributes to them being confused and disillusioned and like becoming withdrawn and not wanting to trust us and not wanting to meaningfully like attempt any of the tasking or like, you know, like that's where you get the whipped puppies like response where it's like, do you even want to be here? Issuance of orders and materials. A big thing for this was like, I just felt like the selectees should not be coming out of pocket for anything. Like the only exception to that is like the things they're going to get like a uniform allowance to purchase all their uniforms. So there's that. And there are some messes that insist on buying combo covers. I don't know why. They're getting a uniform allowance. They can buy their own fucking combo cover. But sometimes people just like to do that as like a gesture, and okay, that's cool. I don't really have an objection to it. I just would like, I'd rather you be spending money that is money fundraised only by the Chiefs mess proper, not by selectees anymore, because we just don't do that anymore. even though there's no formal policy document yet saying that you can't. But like, you just don't. It's accepted now that we don't do. Selectees don't participate in fundraising anymore, but the mess can raise funds for supporting the season leading up to the season, and then use that money for like all the other stuff. And a lot of it you can get through the supply system because this is an actual formal training event. So you can get like the pens for the charge books and the green books for the charge books and some of that other stuff that is to be used for that. But then there's other stuff that isn't, and there's other stuff needed for like final night and for all this other stuff. It's like, the selectees shouldn't be paying for anything ever. This is a training event put on by the Navy. The Navy should be paying for it. That would be a fun thing to put into the instruction as well. For like, you could even get like a exception for like the take notes, people that are writing this instruction. You could work with NAVSUP to get an exception. They'd probably do it through some form of message first and then obviously revise the 486 later, but to where I could issue you food. I could order I could order food that is going to be used for the purpose of like final night or the selectee meet and greet or whatever, because they're part of formal training events and they're something the Navy is like making you do. So like you could create an exception to certain policy or just like include it as like a reason where I could issue you food because it's all active duty sailors eating it, you know, blah, blah, blah. There's probably a way to do that. I'm really confident there's a way, and you can order MREs through the catalog. Like there's all kinds of things where you'd have to get NAVSUP to like create the infrastructure and the process, but like you could, and it wouldn't be that difficult to do. And then you could order food that way to where we're not spending the money, the fundraised money for that kind of stuff. But like, however you do it, whether it's just fundraising or whether you created some kind of a formal process to where subsistence could be done that way for formal training events only. I think that the selectees shouldn't be paying for anything. And then like for the orders themselves, like people call it different things, instructions, orders, whatever. You get generally results come out and day one you get issued a set of like instructions or orders or whatever they're called in your area. And it's just like this big packet of like, kind of like, this is like guidance on some of the things that are going to happen in the chief season. And there's generally some enclosures too. Like there used to be a PQS. I feel like most people don't do that anymore, but some do still. It's usually stupid. Memorization, bunch of other stuff. But, and that's something I'll populate as part of that, like that plan to like, I'll create templates for a lot of stuff so that people will have something to start with that are going to be like season leads and stuff. But it all depends on I might need some help from active duty people depending on how that instruction comes out, because it might change, you know, in such a way that I wouldn't be able to do it on my own. I don't think it's going to change that drastically, but yeah, I think that I'm fine with some fun being built into the orders. Like there's some stuff, like there's some fun memorization stuff, like the fallacious nature of my chronometer stuff. Like I don't mind that secret decoder ring stuff so much. I don't like the having to call genuine chiefs, like, which I hate that term too. And I know a lot of people don't use it anymore. I think at one point it was kind of soft banned or whatever. I don't know. But like, I don't like calling people genuines. I don't like calling them honorable, most honorable and exalted, or whatever the fuck variation you used. Like it's stupid. The presenting the charge book to ask for a charge, I always felt weird about people doing the whatever their blurb was to present their charge book to get the signature. But if we're not treating it like it's a huge infraction and it's just kind of like a for fun thing, like the how long you been in the Navy phrase, like the response to that question. If we're treating it like that and it's just for funsies, okay. I mean, I don't really mind it that either, but like I never make any selectees do it, because it makes me uncomfortable. I don't know. I think it's kind of weird. But like I think that's more of a personal preference. Like I can't think of like a real principled argument against doing it at all, except for I feel like at the beginning of the season when people haven't memorized it yet, it does create a barrier for getting charges, because some people, if you can't say it, will just say no, which I think is stupid. Like, I mean, if you're treating it like it's just for fun, fine. But if you're treating it like it's a requirement for entry into like the getting a charge conversation, it's like, that's stupid. So whatever. But like, I'm fine with there being fun built in. Like another example is like the vessel dimensions. So like the box that the charge book is carried in is called a vessel. They build it themselves generally. And they'll put the required dimensions for the vessel in like fathoms, and then you have to like convert it and shit. Or they'll have you number your pages in like binary and fucking Roman numerals and some other shit, and one will be back to front and one will be front to back. It's like shit like that. I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, it's kind of like funny, and it confuses the shit out of the selectees, and it's just like a fun aspect to it. I'm like, I don't have a big issue with that. But like the PQS is stupid. You're not qualifying to become a chief. It's fucking dumb. There's some other memorization that's like just pointless. I don't know. Like, so I've seen some really weird shit built into like orders that I just think are ridiculous. So like I want it to be fun, but I wouldn't want it to cross the line into unprofessional and pointless. Like there still needs to be a reason behind it, even if the reason is just fun. But then again, that needs to be used judiciously, just because it's only 6 weeks. We have a lot to do. So it's like, I don't need a 20-page memorization section with most of it being bullshit. Like, there's not a single Navy select except for maybe an FMF corpsman that's going to need to sing the Marine Corps hymn. It's just not. You could put a gun in my head right now and I couldn't sing the Navy hymn. So if there is such a thing, I think there is. So like, it's just like, I mean, go get any Master Chief to recite the Navy ethos to you. Like, they can't, like, because no one uses it for anything ever. Like, they passed out these cards when it first came out, when I was on my first submarine, and then like you barely ever see it, except when you're like, you'll be in like a schoolhouse and it'll be on the wall, but like nobody fucking knows what it says. Like, come on. Anyway. It's just, there's some stuff that it just needs to go. And that's why I wrote trim the fat, like bullshit memorization, PQS, etc. Open source. I wrote that for a reason. I think there's too much pointless secrecy. Like the whole thing needs to be behind this veil of confidentiality, like, because we're doing all the super secret. It's like, we're not. We're just doing leadership development. And if we're doing other shit, it's like, why does there need to be a veil of secrecy again? There are very few moments where a thing needs to be private because people are getting vulnerable, like telling stories that don't need to be broadcast to a wide audience, or just doing other things like where a person can become vulnerable, and it's just not a thing that needs to be public. But they're rare. Like, those are not common events. So I feel like 90% of the Chief season can just be transparent and open. And I think you get a lot out of doing that. One, it's really difficult to talk all the shit about it being reindeer games and they're just like fucking occult and it's all stupid and, you know, like all that kind of shit. You can't say all that if you know exactly what's going on. It's really hard to like tear it down in that regard. Not that I'm wildly concerned about that, but I feel like it would be a supportive step towards like earning back some of the lost trust of the junior enlisted by being transparent about it. Also, I think what you'd find by things like this being more honest and open, like, and I've said it before on a podcast, like a selectee. So like, let's say, you know, CS1 gets selected for chief, right? When he has a moment, and he's working on stuff, like sitting down on the mess decks and opening his bag, pulling out his vessel, pulling out his charge book, doing the things, and then showing CS3, like, hey, check this out. This is my charge book, and this is what it is, and this is what it means, and this is why it's important. All you're going to get out of that is more junior sailors that want to be chiefs. I don't understand how that would be a bad thing. It would restore a lot of trust and meaning to it all. I think that it just gives them a goal to strive towards. It gives them because I remember like seeing people I looked up to in the dive chair on a submarine. I'm like, man, I want to do that. Or like the Cobb I had on Jimmy Carter. I'm like, man, I want to be that, like, and it made me work really fucking hard to get to that point. And so like, but it also just gave me an exemplar. It gave me something to look up to. It gave me an example to follow. It gave me something to be excited about. And I think that that's all you're going to get from a lot of this being open and transparent to the extent that it can be, which is a lot. Like a lot of it can just be public and open and transparent. And I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be. And no one has ever given me a compelling reason to the contrary. Like I've never heard a compelling argument to the contrary, except for things like there are things on final night, like the White Hat burial. That's not a public event. That's going to be closed door, Chiefs mess and Chiefs flex. Everybody else isn't invited because it gets vulnerable. It gets like people are telling really personal stories a lot of times or getting emotional or whatever. And like, it doesn't need to be out in the open. And same thing with some of the other events, but like for the most part, it's not like that. Safety brief / family materials. I mean, this would be something that should happen very close to results, if not after. I don't really have any issue with it happening after, but there should be an explicit safety brief with the command SEL and probably the CO present, just for the, like the physical, like literal presence of that kind of authority saying the things means a lot more than like the season lead doing it. And it shows that they've co-signed, which they literally should, as discussed earlier. But I think there should be an explicit safety brief on the do's and don'ts. What is hazing? What does it look like? Why alcohol is not allowed? PTing them too much? Whatever, wherever those guardrails are, like there should be an explicit safety brief on all the things. And then like expectations of all the facilitators and sponsors and even the selectees, like on like, this is what right looks like. If it doesn't look right, say something. And also like just hammering home over and over again, dignity and respect, like just treating people with dignity and respect. Like there's no excuse not to, even when your blood's up and you're holding somebody accountable with a raised voice, like you still don't need to be operating outside of those guardrails. And then providing also like family materials, like a brief to families, which I usually use like as part of the selectee meet and greet. When the families are present, I would kind of gather all the significant others, spouses or partners or whatever, and just the family, and just kind of give them a brief on like what to expect. And then just say you have a direct line to me and the command SEL if I wasn't that, right? Which I usually wasn't. And it was just like, they need to know that if something comes up, like, and I need to like divert your selectee to go deal with like real life personal issues, like, got it. And it should be immediate. It should be, something where that significant other or family member can access the command SEL and say, hey, this is what's going on. I need this person now. Because like there's just stuff that is more important than showing up to PT or doing training or whatever, like that can happen and probably will happen. And the idea that the Chief season is like takes precedence is absurd. Like they can miss a day. It's fine. So yeah, I just being really explicit about making sure the family knows what's going on and that they have a direct line to the command SEL, and also giving an explicit safety brief for everybody that's participating in everything. All right. So then, like, I just broke it up to the way I divided all the weeks. It was just like I kind of divided it up by the mission, vision, guiding principles in lieu of having like a master course document with training objectives by week. So I just kind of roughly sketched out like how I might lay it out. And so, like, for week one, I just have the theme for the week, or like the goal of the week, that this is kind of what the training objectives might revolve around, even though what you would probably see in a real like master course document that laid out actual training objectives is there'd be like, you'd see a lot of the mission, vision, guiding principle type, like the 7, I think there's 7, right? 5, 6, yeah, 7 like different like points of it, like appear multiple times each week and just be programmed into specific training objectives that would form like a coherent narrative across the 6 weeks. But I didn't go into that kind of detail because I don't even know, like, I'm assuming that he's going to update the mission, vision, guiding principles, but then also the instruction would throw a monkey wrench into that. So I just kept it basic. So for week one, I put professionalism and accountability just to kind of start with that we're a professional leadership organization and that's what we should be building these people into members of, and then accountability towards that end, right? So like uniform appearance, punctuality, the formal communications, like all the things, right? Just like the basics, I think. And then I put the mock PRT BCA in there as well because I link directly to professionalism, your ability to meet the physical fitness requirements that the military sets forth. So, and I want to see day one where you're at, because theoretically we've got time to remediate you the little bit that's left if for whatever reason you didn't anticipate this and, do work ahead of time being a board eligible first class. But then it's like that's where we intervene and it becomes a collective effort to get them across the finish line over the next 6 weeks. And if we got to do extra PT or you figure out a plan for doing that, blah, blah, blah. I put uniform inspection on there. For the professionalism piece in particular, I've seen, and it's always been there, but like I've seen a market increase in just like super unsat grooming standards and uniform appearance every single time I'm on base, all the time, and on social media, which I know is polarized towards showing me those types of things. Otherwise, they're not going to be showing super sat sailors. The memes are going to be of people that are unsat, and I recognize that, but I'm just saying, like, just everybody I see in uniform on base, it's like, yikes. Which it's a working uniform. They're submariners. They're getting after it. So like, I'm not judging them too. I'm just saying, like, I would like to set the standard early for like, hey, part of being a professional senior enlisted leader is uniform standards, and we're going to talk about those, and grooming standards, and we're going to talk about those and model them. And so like doing the uniform inspection, I feel like is really important to see, like, oh, you're ready to be a chief, but you can't even wear a fucking first class's uniform correctly. Okay. Looks like we got some work to do. And so like, I feel like it's an important piece to start off with. And I do it before the uniform fitting too, so that they can take it that more seriously based on the precedent set by doing this, and then whatever subsequent informal training or remediation has to happen afterwards. I put the selectee family meet and greet in the first week. I feel like that could be done the like weekend, like, so if results come out midweek or towards the end of the week, that first weekend, I would already have it set up, like the selectee meet and greet, which it's difficult because like sometimes you don't always know when results are going to drop, but like, do your best. The first trainings, and so for the first 5 weeks, which, you could make an argument for doing less, but like, I think the first 5 weeks I have the Chiefs mess is the one running Chiefs training, like the Chiefs selectee training, right? Why? I know there's like a whole bunch of people that are going to have like issues with that, but hear me out. One, almost every selectee training I've ever been to has been a fucking dumpster fire until the end of the season. when they sort of finally start to get it together, / the Chiefs just start to back off naturally because it's almost over. If we're doing training and training's not being accomplished, so you're not doing training. That's my argument. It's like we have so much shit to cover. If all that's happening is we're spending 30 minutes of the hour we have allotted kicking them out, trying to get them to like knock and enter the right way, what the fuck are we doing? Like, come on. You can do that on your own time to amuse yourself, even though I don't think you should be doing it at all. Because you want them in the mess, because you want as much time with them as you can possibly fucking get to do informal training and mentoring, in addition to the formal training, to get them prepared to be the best chief they possibly can be. And I'm kind of an absolutist on this point, is like, we don't have time to fuck around. We don't. There's always time to have a little fun, because like, holy shit, 1, we're not machines, 2, it's a stressful job and you need to laugh through the pain. But like, we do not have time during a 6-week training cycle to be fucking losing almost the entire hour of the weekly training session. Usually there's sometimes that people do more, which is fine, but like, actually do fucking training. We're not here to just scream at them about nothing and then kick them out. What did they learn? That you're an asshole and they can't trust you? Cool. Like, that's not what we're doing here. So like, I have the first trainings, which are really just like the trainings all the way up until week 6, run by the Chiefs Mess for that reason, because there's a lot of topics that need to be covered. And I feel like a lot of times, like I've sat down with countless boot chiefs, like first year chiefs, that have no fucking idea what's on a chief eval. And it's like, how did you get to pinning without ever like sitting down and talking to a chief about a chief eval? Or writing a report shit, or doing a PIO, or somebody's UA, what do you do? Or drug test stuff, or career counselors. Like, just fuck, there's so much institutional expertise shit alone. Just that. There's so much shit chiefs are responsible for on a regular basis that we could be spending our time training them on, that almost always gets lost in the sauce because we spend all our time fucking screaming at them for no reason. So like, that's why I'm like, well, fucking flip this on its head. We're trying to bring them into this organization, and to do that, they need to learn how to be chiefs. Who are they going to learn how to be chiefs from? Chiefs. So that's who's going to do training. Fight me. And then I put a signed heritage project, and I wrote living history just because I would like to see things where instead of you regurgitating some shit you found on the internet about Peter Tomich or something, like, I would rather, because like those things can happen in other ways, like chief trivia type stuff, like who's Loretta Perfectus Walsh and why is she important, and who's Jacob Osby and all that kind of stuff. It's like, I would rather they are assigned a living history project, in that they have to go find somebody, sit down with them, and learn about what it was like to be a chief in the 90s, or what it was like to, like, so one of the most powerful conversations in the leadership development vein, and I would say the podcast in its entire decade-long history that I've ever had, was with James Parlier. I believe it's episode 53. Don't quote me on the number, but the title is Determined Response, because that was what it was called, the recovery of the coal after the coal bombing. He was the CMC on board when it happened in Yemen. And holy shit, man, that dude's story and the way that he articulates it, it was fucking incredible. I spent like a couple of hours like sitting on the couch staring off into space, just like decompressing and processing the conversation I had just had, because it's wild, man. And it's, I would say the next one is the first time I talked to Jason Thompson on a podcast, man. Like, his story is insane and powerful. Jeff Bayless, same thing. Like, there are so many of those people out there. That Christina D'Arienzo, like, is a great one too. I loved the first time we talked. Like, there's so much of that out there that I would like to see some, like if I was the guy that was creating it, like if I was still running Chief Seasons, I would build that heritage project that way, where I want you to go find someone like that and, you know, sit down, talk to them, and then bring that back and do like a teach back to the mess of like, hey, this is what I learned, you know, almost like you're like a journalist or something. Because I just think there's so much to be gained from those types of interactions, and there's such a fucking untapped resource out there with, you know, old dudes like me and older, like, because like I still have conversations like that occasionally that I just blow me away with like retired folks and like that just have wild stories, and it's cool, and they're just like the people ambling by you in the commissary too. It's like they're just like right under your nose and you don't even know it. So it's just like, go find those things. Week 2 I had integrity as the thing. Same thing, training run by the mess, uniform fitting. I wrote invite family for a couple of reasons. One, it's fun. You get to see your sailor in khakis, even though it doesn't have all the things on it. It's just a good time. 2, a lot of money gets spent that day. And I feel like most spouses or significant others are the ones running the household finances because the sailor leaves a lot. So like the discussion of how to do that, are you going to put it on a star card? Are you going to do the no interest loan thing? And I don't know if that process has evolved at all. So maybe there's other options too, but like there's decisions that get made, one about like how the amount of money that's going to get spent and how it's going to get spent. But 2, like even just like what uniform items to buy. And everybody's got like a different take on that. Like, you don't need to buy your chokers, you're never going to wear them, or you don't need to buy this, or you don't need, and it's like, I think you should just get everything, but I understand people have budgets and shit. So it's like, it's just one of those things where it's like, 1, it's fun. 2, it is arguably very helpful to have your spouse there, because like I can't tell you the number of times that I thought I was making a smart decision and then my wife told me why it was so stupid that I just did what I did, because I can never think of everything, and she thinks differently than I do in certain ways, where it would have been really great to have that conversation with her first. So I highly recommend doing that. Assuming you have, you know, somebody that, and like, even if it's just for fun, like even if like maybe your dad's local and you just want to bring him, you know, or whatever, I think there's value to that. Next employees probably will want to stab me because it's more people to deal with, but I'm just saying, like, I think it's worth it. And then I put reachbacks discussion. What I mean by this, and it's pretty typical that you'll be tasked with, discussing, or like for me, I had to write a page in my charge book of the chief that influenced me the most. Shout out to Keith Seeley. I don't know if he listens, but he was my chief at my first shore duty that kind of is the reason I stuck around after my first shore duty. And a big part of my success there was him just understanding how to lead me in a way that no one ever had before. And he was just a fucking great dude. Still is. But they had me like write up a thing about the chief that influenced me the most. When I say reachbacks discussion, what I mean is pick up the phone and call them. Like, it means the fucking world to me when I get those phone calls, and I get them every year from sailors. And sometimes it shocks me, like it's a sailor like I wouldn't have called that I was the one that influenced them the most, but I get phone calls like that every year, at least for charges and to thank me for things, if not because I'm that guy to them, or that person rather. And it's like, it's a big fucking deal. And it's, if you're willing to say that, I can't tell you what it means to that person, but 2, it's a very impactful moment for the person making the phone call too. And then there's going to be a discussion of like, kind of like similar to getting a charge in your charge book, where it becomes like that mentorship type. It's just like a moment in time to spend getting mentored again by that person, having the discussions about what you were like then and what you're like now and all the differences. And it's just a very, very valuable conversation to be had. And so I think that should be the task. And then, like, if you want to have them write something in their charge book or whatever, cool. Like, I think there's value to that too. Like, I look at it and I took a picture of it. I don't think I told him until way later. Like, I might have been retired when I sent him the picture, but I took a picture of that page in my charge book and sent it to Keith, and he was just like, whoa, like, I didn't, like, and I know he knows he's important in my career arc, in my story. Like, he was a big influence on me, but like, he didn't know that, and he thought it was really fucking cool, and it meant a lot to him. So like, it's kind of a way to express gratitude to the people that impacted you the most, and it's extremely like validating and meaningful, because it's like, what other metric do you really have, unless you want to point at like promotions and shit? But I know plenty of assholes that make Master Chief, so it's like it's like, what other measurement or like validation measure do you have for if you did good or not? Like, if you made an impact and like helped these people in the way that you were trying to or thought you did or whatever. It's like those phone calls are how, and it's a big deal. It's very important. Week 3, I had technical and institutional expertise. I kind of grouped them together, even though the mission vision guide principles hasn't broken out into competency, like the 2 different like subcategories of competency. I'll get into that later when I attempt a mission guiding principles update. If I do, maybe Perryman releases his and I'm like, oh, these are fucking perfect. It wouldn't shock me if it's a huge improvement, to be honest, but I'll save that for that discussion for then, if it happens. But this is the week that I plugged in CPO Indoc, teaching the creed, but based on mission vision guiding principles. Ideally, it'd be the only event that week. And the reason I say that is because within the skin of that formal curriculum that goes like 5 days, I believe it's 5 days. I don't know. Don't quote me on that either. It's been a while since I've looked at it, but it would allow for the discussion of the importance of institutional and technical expertise. Institutional expertise being a thread that runs through the whole chief season is what I meant. Is cheesin'. There's your weird like catchphrase. Somebody trademarked that shit. I'm gonna like inadvertently start using that because I think it's funny. But with like within, you can talk about like throughout the thread of the whole chief season, you're going to be talking about institutional expertise, and you're going to be teaching them the things that make up institutional expertise, like teaching them like where to find the Millipers manual, a nav admin viewer, like this is how you read them, this is why it's important, these are the instructions, this is where you find op navs and bupers instructions, and this is the correspondence manual, and blah blah blah. Like there's just a ton of like source documents, the NEC manual. There's just all this shit that like a lot of people don't deal with unless they've been a collateral duty career counselor or some other specific collateral duty that might have dealt with part of it. But like there's a lot that you need to know to best take care of your sailors, and this will teach you how to navigate those systems. And so like institutional expertise would be a thread throughout the entire season, stressing the importance of technical expertise, because I can't teach you your technical expertise because I only have mine, right? And so it's just stressing that like you need to be the technical expert. You need to be able to have those conversations with your commanding officer, with your department head, et cetera. You need to be able to train your people. I think there's an argument to be made that the technical mastery, like what is meant by mastery, is less I can quote a tech manual or a procedure, and more based on my study and experience over a long period of time. I can provide guidance, mentorship, training, and I know where to look for all the information all the time, because even the obscure shit, because I'm so well versed and experienced. Does that mean I can always quote a tech manual or have like a PM memorized because I'm the maintainer that does it every fucking time it comes up? No, that's not. Like, I would say that type of like I would consider a more like literal definition of technical expertise. I think technical mastery is honestly a better way of articulating it, and I need to write that down. But I think that type of technical expertise peaks at like first class, and then once a first class becomes board eligible and their focus starts being diverted to all the other shit we want them to be focused on according to the precepts and enlisted career path and fucking communing, whatever the fuck documents. They're trying to win Sailor of the Year and fucking get EPs with collateral duties and qualifying watches and doing all this other shit that may or may not be directly related to their technical expertise. And the second you start diverting your attention from technical expertise, you're no longer the peak of technical expertise. Technical mastery, I think, is a much better term for it. Because, like, while I couldn't quote I would go do SMIs, supply management inspection on a submarine, where I'm master chief, and I'm going down there to do an inspection on the food service operation, right? So I should just have everything memorized, right? Nah, fucking course not, but I know where to look. And I have all the books on my little tablet thing that I had it was like one of those Microsoft tablets that the NFL uses. And so, like, I don't need to have it all memorized, but it's like I know what right looks like, and I know what not right looks like, and when I flag not right, if I need to reference a book, fine. But, like, in comparison to the person who's in it all the time and has like procedures or obscure parts of instructions memorized and can quote them, neat. What does it mean in practical application? What does you completing that task mean to like other places in the ecosystem that is our rate and how the things get accomplished? Like when I send financial returns off the submarine, where do they go? What do they do? What happens to them? Why do they give a shit? You know, who do we communicate with? Like all that. It's like there's so much other stuff that falls in the umbrella of technical competency, but like isn't the kind of stuff that a first class is going to know. But like I think the actual technical expertise for like the operation and maintenance of the equipment and the accomplishment of like hyper specific tasks that are like fall within the responsibility of that rating. You're peaking at first class, that like a new first class. And then as soon as you start to tear your attention away from that to do the other things that you need to do to promote beyond first class, that's when you start to, it's more of like a, what do they call it? Like a linear transfer over, like you're just moving to a new path of like a progressive path towards mastery where it's like, you're not going to be the most competent operator. Like I had a brand new first term sailor that could just bake in, like he was like a savant for baking. I mean, this kid was making souffles and coffee cups on deployment. He was making like Danish diamonds and just fucking crazy shit that like I could tell you, like in that moment on that, he was better than me at that immediately because he was just freakishly good at it, like freakishly talented. But I knew more about it than he did. So how do you reconcile those two things? I knew vastly more about the art and science of culinary and baking, like that craft or art, depending on, you know, how you feel about it. But like I knew vastly more about the actual like practice, like cooking, baking, vastly more. Formally educated, tons of experience in civilian industry and in the military. And he was better than me at that day and the whole time I've known him. Like, so it's just like at doing it, actually doing it. And to me, that's technical expertise in my mind. Technical mastery is more what I became later as like a senior chief and a master chief. So like, I don't know. There's that. All right. Week 4, deck plate leadership. Training again, still run by the mess until week 6. Charge books and vessels due. What I mean by due is like, this is the absolute latest that you're going to be like preparing them and like building them out. Like, cause charge books are, which I've shown mine on a podcast before, but it's like, it's one of those green, like log books, the standard size, not the legal size. Like the standard, like regular paper size. So, cause I know there's like 5 or 6 different sizes, but like kind of like the regular size. Like what is it? Like 9.5 by 11 or whatever. That's printer paper, like that size. And then we like cover them, right? So like mine's covered in a wash khaki shirt that some chiefs got us. I've never worn wash khakis. I was in the Navy when they wore them, but like it was like a chief that had been around a long time provided us with wash khaki shirts. We used them as like our book covers, and then mine like buttons closed, and then like the pocket is where I put my pens and stuff. It's pretty dope. And then because the pocket's on there, we like put our warfare shit, and they sewed like a collar on the corner, and so like I put a Chiefs anchor on it, and then when I made senior chief, I put a senior Chiefs anchor on there too, and then now there's 3. So it's you have to like do a lot, and then like the pages you prepare a lot. Like there's a lot that goes into like building the structure of a charge book before you start getting charges and start using it as a scrapbook, which comes later, and journaling and all, which happens during the season. But like so for me, I put it in week 4. You could argue that, I mean, you could probably put it in like week 3, and maybe the vessels do week 4, but it's just so you have more time to get charges. Like you have like a full 4 weeks to get charges and stuff. But that's those things. And then I put a Comrel, and I put veteran focus. So Comrel is, you know, like a volunteer event, like go out in town and do something nice for the community. But I put veteran focus just because I feel like there's more of an opportunity for them to learn, and it kind of keeps with the theme of the Chief season being a leadership development and education event, to go find veteran like nonprofits. Maybe like locally we have a veterans home that's, you know, a bunch of retirees and just veterans that need assisted living and stuff. And so there's just all kinds of places you can go and do really cool things for veterans or with veterans or whatever, where you can volunteer to help out. Like there's the Turner Joy. It's like a destroyer museum thing on the waterfront here. They do Chiefs events usually, like a kind of like Heritage Academies, like the Constitution sort of, on the Turner Joy every year too. But like there's like you can go down there, volunteer, and like paint stuff and like help them out, and they can like give you a tour and work with you. And I don't know, like just something that's focused on the theme of the thing versus being just like like go pick up trash on the side of the road. Like cool, but like I'd rather it be linked to a training objective in some way. And then week 5, I got team effectiveness and accountability, and like I edited some of these a little bit. I think, no, did I? Let me see. No, team effectiveness is in there. Because I started working on the mission vision guiding principles shell, and then I fucking moved back and forth between things, so I'm confusing myself. Training run by the mess again. This is the last training run by the mess, because the next week is a teach back run by Selects. But for this one, same thing. There's that. I put a team building event built on trust and accountability as like a theme. What I mean by team building event is pretty broad, but something focused on trust and accountability. And one of the best ones I've seen, which like you could probably make it more than just this and make it a little more robust. But the last final night I ever went to at the Flag Command, I was not around much. People didn't know why at the time. Like the selectees didn't know what was going on. I was on limb due for mental health the last 6 months of my career because my brother and 2 nieces were murdered. It coincided. I was already in therapy for all my other issues when I was having panic attacks, and I have an anxiety disorder, and I have insomnia, and I have all this other shit. But I was doing a lot better, and like, I mean, I was objectively doing well when it happened. And so like I was talking about like ending therapy and everything. But then when that happened, I mean, I just went off a cliff, and that's when I went on medication, and I was just like, I was not functional. Like I was a fucking mess, and no one knew that, but like the season was going on after that. I forget exactly when it was going on, but it was like, I was still a shit show, and so I wasn't involved in the season really at all. I think I showed up to maybe 2 things, and then I came to final night. And we did this event. I forget what they called it. I still have the stick. I don't remember where I put it, but it's in here somewhere. But it was like this like steak or something, and it was like we were all just standing like in a park, and it was like the selectees were supposed to walk up to a chief, put the stick in front of them and then tell them kind of like why I forget. I think it was like why they were disappointed in them or like something that they wish they had gotten from them or something. It was like it was supposed to be a criticism of the chief. And so like the trust being that the selectee trusts me not to lose my shit. And it was it's final night. So I mean, the process is effectively over. And then accountability for the chiefs. Like it's an opportunity for the selectees effectively to provide feedback, but it's really, I want you to be critical of me. I want you to tell me what I did during the chief season that you think was like me sucking, right? And so like I had this kid, I love this kid. He's a good dude. He made chief, and I wasn't around at all, and he came up and put a stick in front of me, which I was surprised by because I'm like, I wasn't even here. Like what could I have done wrong? And he said to me, he goes, I've always really enjoyed talking to you, and I've like kind of like I respect you and look up to you, and he basically said he was disappointed that I wasn't involved in the chief season because he felt he could learn a lot from me. And I was like, oh fuck. I'm like, that cut deep. But like I at the same time I just thought it was awesome as well because he was right. I would have loved to have been there for him. He didn't know the context. I don't think he knows to this day unless he's listening to this episode, but I thought that event was really cool and really impactful for as simple as it was. And keep in mind, you have to build that trust over this 6 weeks to allow for that to happen. If the selectees don't think they can do that, if they think they're just going to get flame sprayed, then it's going to be an ineffective training event. But I don't know. I really enjoyed it. It was a final night event, but I thought maybe you could give it more time to breathe and build a little more intent and I don't know, just fun into it. Like, cause it was shitty out. It was cold. It was like mist rain and shit cause Pacific Northwest. But anyway, and then heritage projects due. So that would be the, like them debriefing whatever conversation they had with the living history type thing that I talked about earlier. And then I wrap up in reviews week 6. I just put the teach back, which that would be the last training or trainings, depending on how many you're doing weekly, run by selectees, of course, because they're kind of like validating that you accomplish the training objectives by explaining to you. And really, I don't want a fucking PowerPoint. I'd rather just have a leadership discussion amongst near peers at this point, because it's almost over, where you're able to explain a lot of the concepts and ideas to me in a way that I feel like you have command of it, not just like you understand, you're not just regurgitating. And it will allow for that type of conversation to happen. But I would like, that's my kind of vision roughly for those trainings. I put Seabag inventory for the capstone event for final night, whatever that looks like. I'm not going to get into any kind of real detail on final night here. That'll be for when I actually formalized all of this with my own structure and stuff. And then PRT BCA would be that week as well. Because I went back and forth about when I should do that and stuff like that, but it's kind of like part of the accountability that I think is necessary is like, look, your chief should have been engaged and you should have been engaged knowing you're going to be board eligible and knowing that a PRT is inbound if you get selected, to where you're prepared and you're on top of that. And by the time we get to the mock BFA, you pass it. It's not a concern. You participate in chief season events and PT, and then you do your PRT and call it a day. You should be able to pass a PRT whenever. If by the end of the 6-week cycle, you can't pass a PRT and BCA, I don't feel like remediation is the answer. I feel like you just failed a PRT and BCA, and you're going to have to remediate and figure out where we go from here, which will likely look like you just remediate, do the PRT, and then they pin you late. It can also look like you get your promotion recommendation removed and you're not going to make chief anymore. It's a requirement. So it's like, it depends on the policy document that's going to drop in the future, and it depends on how your command treats it. Because right now there really isn't there might be something in the PFA instruction. I'm far from an expert that would like dictate what the course of action would be in that context. I don't know. I'd have to go hunting for that answer, but I went back and forth with like, should I do it earlier so they have a chance, like a second chance or something? But then I'm like, no, like you're getting promoted to chief, like fucking meet the standard or don't. Like, it's just, this is such a basic thing that you've had your entire career to be made aware of and figure out a way to maintain. And it's just one of those things, like, you need to be able to do this because you need to be the example, and you're going to be the one holding people accountable for it. Like, you're not necessarily going to be the CFL, but I'm just saying, like, you have sailors that you're going to have to write an eval for them if they fail a PRT, and that's a mechanism for accountability, the way that those are written if the PRT has failed, blah, blah, blah. So I just think, like, leaving it for the last week's fine. I feel like that's how I did it when I would run it, but I can't remember. All right, capstone. So final night. I don't know. I keep saying capstone because I think it was drawn from when it was CPO 365 phase 2 or something because I'm old, but like, whatever. Final night. I basically just wrote like a general idea of like each event station attached to every single training objective, just meaning that every single training objective should be addressed by one or more of the events that happen during final night, but there should be a training objective linked to it, and then you should be able to explain how that training event is accomplishing the training objective, right? Because you can't just say like, oh yeah, this thing where we fucking scream at them and, you know, throw mud at them or whatever. Like, I don't know, like this ridiculous event that has nothing to do with this is actually tied to this because I say so. It's like, no, you have to be able to like explain it. But that's part of that CO brief and everything we talked about. So that they can like every single event has got to be linked to at least one training objective, and you need to be able to explain it with a focus on crystallizing the sense of belonging to this team being the Chiefs mess, right? So like that they can trust us, that we'll show up for them, and that we're in this together, right? So like that's kind of like a overarching thing that should be attached to every event, is that like treating everybody with dignity and respect, and everything should be built on creating and like cultivating a culture of trust, like where they trust us so that they know they can be a part of this organization and that we got their back, they got that, like they're actually a part of it, instead of us like creating the division that we typically do now. And then I get into, this is just like, I have like a notes section. This is just kind of like general thoughts on some concept stuff. I put annual training is critical. And what I mean by that is like this thing being a year-round evolution is critical, right? Like formal, informal leadership development education, the NLEC ELD courses, any like local mentorship or Sailor 360 style training program, whatever you can do. I'd settle for just like CMCs and COs, like pushing like reading lists or podcasts or whatever, like valuable resources that they know to exist for their someone's own leadership development and education. Because if the number of people that seek me out are seeking me out on their own, like if you were recommending things to them, I have a lot of faith in that people would use those like anything that can make your job easier, you're going to give a chance. And if you're struggling as like an LPO or a young chief and somebody provides you with a list of resources to be better at it, you're going to at least sniff test them. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'd settle for that, but like just some kind of formal or informal structure throughout the year. Besides just like the normal everyday, like, show up to work, disseminate the work, let us go do the damn thing. Maybe we have a conversation about how you fuck something up and then go home. Like, that's not like, there are things learned through osmosis by just doing that, just experiencing the Navy generally, being in the position that you're in. But like, it's got to be deliberate. Like, there needs to be a deliberate effort formally and informally to educate people besides just the 6-week chief season. Like, you're not building a competent chief in 6 weeks. This is a finishing school. Like, this is like a capstone to everything that happens throughout the year. So yeah, and I think I would really love to see NLEC ELD or the Navy Community College utilized as like a formal platform that's accessible like remotely from someone's phone or laptop or whatever, where they can like work through it like a more robust and interactive like PME type thing throughout the year, where they're like spending time. And again, like you can just build out the curriculum to be supported by existing resources like podcasts and books and just shit that's already real that like the Navy doesn't need to spend money on like creating a curriculum. They can just like write one out and it's supported by all these resources, right? Just my 2 cents. And we have these mechanisms in place now where NLEC ELD is real, Navy Community College is real. Feels like it's underutilized in the leadership development education space, but you know. Policy documents. So like, I don't think I really need, I had a whole paragraph on this shit, but I guess we don't really like, apparently there's an instruction inbound. So I think I'm going to skip this part because also this is pretty long already, but CNO signing out a policy document would be amazing. PT, I'm on the fence about doing it or not doing it just because I don't really feel like the institution prioritizes the culture of fitness anyway. So like, who gives a fuck? Like they waived fucking PRT and BCA requirements during COVID and shit. They've lowered standards literally. So I'm just kind of like, I don't know, like I'm indifferent. Like I could see it as a team building and like esprit de corps type event. Like I've had fun at Chief PT plenty, but like also if the institution's not going to make it a priority, I don't see why we should be making it a priority during the Chief season unless you need to be spending that time because a sailor is going to have trouble with BCA PRT at the end of the season. But yeah, I mean, I kind of just feel like it's up to you. I don't know. Like I can't think of a meaningful reason to like argue for it outside of they need to pass the PRT. And so like, but also we're adults and you should be able to pass the PRT anyway. So it's just kind of like if the institution prioritizes it, like in a way like the Army does, and I'm not saying they implement it well, but like everybody does PT every morning on an Army base and then you go to work. And so it's like, and granted they're there at like 5:30 in the morning, which is insane, but like, that's how they do it. But they do prioritize it. And so it's just like, if that's what we're doing, okay, but it's not. So I don't know why it would need to be a meaningful part of the Chiefs season, but it, you know, that's just kind of like I don't really care either way. The philosophy, I'll wrap up with this. And I was talking to somebody about this the other day and they were like, they were articulating they didn't quite know how to fix the part of the season where it's like, yeah, okay, cool, you write down all these rules and guardrails and training objectives and shit, but how do you change like the tone? How do you like get Chiefs to like do it in the productive manner in which we do it? And the way that the way that I understand it in my mind is, first we need to start with our source documents, which I've been talking about for a while. I offered the, like draft revision of the creed as my kind of take on where we could start there, and then a revision of the mission, vision, guiding principles, even though I feel like they're adequate to start with. Codifying who we are and what we do as like a starting point to build those training objectives on, to build the infrastructure on, in the way that I feel like they erroneously did with the teaching of the creed. I just think it was poorly executed, and I don't think the creed was a solid foundation. But I would say like we don't currently know who we are and what we do in a way that with the clarity that we would need to for this event to be built in that way, and for us to then effectively remediate the Chiefs that are there now to execute the season in the way that it would need to accomplish like the creating trust, bringing people into the organization, not creating a gulf, not villainizing the Chiefs mess, and then wanting them at the last second to flip a switch and accept us, which is insane. Or for us to accept them, they should be accepting us is what I meant by that. Sorry. I think we need cultural remediation based on an updated set of principles that articulate that identity. And then we build the training objectives on top of that. And then it just needs like a coherence first so that we can then do that remediation culturally, which would start with the MCPON's messaging, but also I kind of this probably isn't going to be popular either, but I think there should be Chiefs training at every command with every Chiefs mess in the entire Navy, and it should be some like MCPON leadership mess developed and like ELD facilitated type shit where there's like formal structure, lesson plans, all that stuff. There used to be some old Chiefs training, but it was never a requirement. I never ever had it used. Not that I never had Chiefs training, I just never had that Chiefs training. Like I had my CMC on Jimmy Carter gave training for a while. He gave Cobb training, and then we would do Chiefs training here and there. But like, and then he did a lot of it just one-on-one as well. But like, it's the type of thing that it needs to be formalized and professionalized so that everybody's doing the same thing. And then I think a lot of it needs to be disseminated in a way that's accessible all the time. So like an app that actually works, or just like a YouTube channel and a podcast, or maybe it's like they aggregate stuff into a curriculum in Navy Community College that you like access the things through somehow, maybe an app, maybe not, but like, and it tracks like your completion of like, I read this thing and then I wrote something up on it, or I listened to this podcast and here's what I think, or whatever. But there needs to be some form of cultural remediation where these people are made to understand these things, and having the entire enlisted leadership force never be formally educated in a meaningful way on how to build a healthy culture within a command, like team, just basic leadership like competencies. It kind of makes a lot of that impossible. Like that's why you only get anomalies instead of it being a more consistent baseline with anomalous overachievers. You just get anomalous overachievers, and arguably some of them are only anomalous overachievers in comparison to the baseline, which is not great. So maybe they're anomalously overachieving, but if we had a better baseline, maybe they'd be closer to slightly above average. You know, like I don't know, but the mean is what needs to be, like we need to elevate what we call our average, you know, like what the minimum required standard is. That bar needs to get raised. And I think there's lots of ways to accomplish it, but we have a lot of cool mechanisms like the Navy Community College, like NLIC ELD, like the Navy App Locker. Like there's, and just the general capabilities that exist if you get a competent app developer or some type of civilian like IT web developer type that could create something like this pretty simply. I feel like it'd be like an app that's just like a link tree almost. Like it's not even that difficult, unless you wanted to build in like it reporting completion of certain things to fleet temps or something. But like, I mean, if Amazon Prime's real, I don't understand why this can't be pretty simply. But anyway, that's basically is what I got for this one. It's a rough sketch. I know it was kind of like disjointed a little bit because as I approached mapping this out, it was kind of like I have this reflex in me where I wanted to do it from stem to stern in excruciating detail. It probably would have been like 5 podcasts, and it's just like, one, ain't nobody got time for that, but also like I'm not ready to do that yet because I want to see what happens with this instruction with the new MCPON's mission vision guiding principles revision, assuming there's one incoming, blah blah blah. And so I want to kind of give them a minute to figure this stuff out, and if they're gonna do those things, cool. If not, fine. And I'll adapt accordingly. But I'm checking right now just to make sure he hasn't updated it yet. But like when those things come, I do plan to kind of build a lot of this out in more detail. But I am interested in anybody, like ideas or feedback. So like feedback on the things I said, but also just ideas that you've had. Like I know I've talked to a lot of chiefs like right after the chief season or as it's happening, and just kind of talking about ideas or concepts that we could be like doing better, and like things they just like, man, why don't we do it this way? Like that kind of stuff I'm interested in hearing from anyone about. So like hit us up, don'tgiveupshitpodcast@gmail.com. You can Facebook message us, Don't Give Up Shit Podcast. You can DM us on Instagram, Reddit, or Discord at DGUTS I am less responsive to DMs, right, by the way. So email's the best, as always. If you want to support us, patreon.com/DGUTspodcast. You can go to YouTube, subscribe, consume it that way. We're monetized fully now. So there's ads on all the podcasts. I know, I'm sorry, but got to pay these bills. So like watching it on YouTube or just subscribing and sharing the content, it all helps. And then just listening and tagging your friends and sending them a podcast link you think will be useful. All of those things are really, really helpful, and we really appreciate them. And that's it. That's what I got for you today. Thank you so much for listening, and don't give up the ship. Please hit the like button, drop a comment down below on what you thought, and subscribe to the channel.